Hey everyone, Colby here. Welcome to another Racial Legends video. Guys, in this one, we're going to be showcasing Khoronar, the Void Legendary Skinwalker Champion. If you did happen to get him, then you're in luck. And if you're looking on ways to build him, then just watch this video and I'll talk you through it. So guys, first of all, let's look at his reviews a bit before we go into his actual gearing. So it says here, Spider's Den, 4.9 campaign locations, 4.8, everything, 5 except the clan boss. That's reasonable. Dragon's Lair, 4.7 Fire Knights, 4 Void Keep, and everything else, almost 5. I do agree with these reviews. Even though these reviews are low, about 600 reviews, I still think they're definitely right on point, and I'll explain why in a bit. So, the way I've geared my Khoronar, and it's not a necessity, as always, I've built him with a stun set and an accuracy set, and the reason being, I want to use him for PvP, but also for the faction wars. He's very useful in there, especially with stun set. So my stun set is not really that great. It does have a few items here that are not level 16. I do have level 16 boots for that plus 40. I do have HP percentage on the chest and critical rate on gloves. Of course, you can go HP percentage on gloves instead if you do happen to get some critical rate out of all your other pieces of gear. So I went, of course, for some defense and HP on my ring. I couldn't get HP on my ring, I think. I didn't have an upgrade available anywhere. So I just went with the best thing I had available for skinwalkers. I went with a critical damage amulet, of course, because we are at that 100% critical rate. So some good accuracy there, some resistance, and 40% critical damage. And of course, for the amulet, I went for speed, HP. If I could have HP percentage, I would prefer that. And this is the way I geared him. Let's look at overall how I've built him. So 62,000 health. That's a really solid amount of health, but of course this can go way higher. If you want to get him with way more HP, of course you can go maybe a shield set, you can go with an HP set, you can go immortal set. There's so many different sets that you can use in Khoronar and he will still be great. So 62,000 health, 2,000 defense, 207 speed, 104 critical rate, 148 critical damage, and 300 accuracy there. The accuracy is not that high for PvP, but it does work in some situations, especially for 3v3, since not all teams have the highest resistance possible. And currently 3v3 is a little bit of a hit or miss. I'll explain why in a bit. So skills. Let's look at his skills, guys, on Khoronar and why he's so great. So, Flourish of Slaughter. So, attacks all enemies has a 50% chance of decreasing each target's turn meter by 5%. That's just an amazing skill to have. 50% chance to decrease turn meter at an AoE A1. That's just fantastic. Attacks all enemies 2 times instead of 1. And the chance of decreasing each target's turn meter increases to 100% if Minaya is on the same team. So this is just amazing. If you do have Minaya on the same team, you can use it. Use both of those champions in the same PvP team, maybe a 3v3 team. And when somebody attacks Khoronar, he will counterattack. We'll look at his passive in a bit. And he will actually do a double turn meter reduction. So 10% instead of 5% here. But his damage will be a bit lower. And this is where you can actually decide to lose out a bit on the damage in terms of critical rate and go for more accuracy possibly and more HP for him to be tankier and survive those hits. So let's look at his A2. Has a 75% chance of placing a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Places a block debuffs buff and a 60% increased defense buff on this champion for 2 turns. This is so great because when he applies that provoke, basically makes everybody attack him. When people attack him, when other champions attack our Khoronar, then he'll be definitely doing his A1 as a counter. Removes all debuffs from the champion before placing the block debuffs and increase defense buffs if Minaya's on the same team. Again, a great tandem with Minaya and Khoronar. Let's look at his A3. Attacks all enemies, plays a 50% decrease attack debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Plays a 60% decrease defense debuff on targets under decrease attack debuff. So if you do happen to land that decrease attack, so you do have that accuracy and it actually lands, then you will also apply the decreased defense. It's just a fantastic skill. I mean, if it also removed buffs, he would be the most overpowered champion in the game, but it doesn't. So it does apply really good debuffs. So decreased attack and decreased defense are essential to passing any content, really, say dungeons or faction wars, of course campaign, but it definitely also helps for PvP. So let's look at his passives, because he has 2 passives, guys. So Ferocious Guard counterattacks when hit by enemies under decreased attack, decreased defense, or decreased speed debuffs. So when you apply this, when you apply your decreased attack or decreased defense with your A3, then he will counterattack. And it says here, always counterattacks when hit if Minaya's on the same team. So even if you don't land anything and Minaya is in the same team, she will help Khoronar counter again. So it's just a fantastic way to utilize that combination of 2 champions. I do have Minaya. I'm going to showcase that later on in the video. So Spectacle plays a 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns if this champion kills an enemy. So you kill somebody, you get an increased defense buff. It sounds amazing. It does not work that good in PvP, especially at the start of the fight. If you're really depending on that increased defense, then you have to wait a bit until 1 kill is done by Khoronar. But instead, this will be very beneficial in stages like the Faction Wars, Spider, where enemies can be killed, and then they will definitely help your team survive way longer when you do achieve that increased defense buff. It's a fantastic passive, but definitely works only for those areas and does not work for the clan boss at all. And that's why he also gets such a bad rating. I wouldn't even classify him as a 3.6. I would say he's a solid 2 or 3 just because of that decreased attack. If he didn't have that, he would just go to 1, the minimum amount of rating that you can put on him, this champion. So let's go over his masteries, guys. The masteries, it depends. It depends. The way I have him right now, you see this, I've got a War Master on him, and then I went the support tree. Support tree, the reason being, of course, very reasonable, just to get that Master Hexer going. You could have gone defense tree here instead to get that additional chance to counterattack. I don't think that's needed because of his passive. He will counterattack way more consistently because of his passive, and when he uses his A3, that's what he uses on auto. So on auto, I think he uses A2 actually. So I do think that the support tree is way better just because you can get that additional telemetry reduction with Evil Eye. You can get the extension of his debuffs with that Master Hexer. It does not count for the stun set. And War Master, it's great for generally doing any dungeons and faction wars. And Khoronar was the key for me in beating the Skinwalker faction war stage 21. So I do think going War Master is way better overall just to beating dungeons and beating that faction wars. But if you're going PvP, then you might have decided to go for Eagle Eye. The additional 50 accuracy might be useful for you to get as close to 300 as possible, which is a minimum, at least in my opinion, if you want to be competing in Gold 4. And you could have gone Fearsome Presence if you want to be landing those stuns with a stun set, if you do happen to choose a stun set on the champion. As I said before, the gearing is not that necessary to have like a stun set on him. You could have gone all accuracy sets. You could have gone only speed and accuracy on Khoronar. You could have gone provoke sets on him just because he can apply additional chance to provoke. But I do think the stun set is so good, especially with that counter. It's an AoE chance to stun. It's just fantastic. The only way for enemies to actually block this will be through a block debuffs buff. I do find the stun set to be amazing on him and generally amazing in all kind of PvE, so dungeon or faction wars content. So let's go in and actually try him out. I'm going to showcase him in the dungeons first, which is the easiest one. So guys, I'll be going in the dragon with this team, just 3 rares, 1 epic, and of course Khoronar, just showcasing that Khoronar. After that, we can also use Minaya there to just show the additional effects that Minaya brings to the team in a PvE situation. So let's go in. Of course, I don't even think that Apothecary will be needed there. This is going to be a ton of fun with Khoronar there. You're going to see what he does on auto right there. Look at that provoke. He does it first, and then everybody will start attacking that Khoronar. He'll be doing his A1 and trying to stun everybody. Look at that. He also applied his A3 way before. Look at that counter going. 1 enemy's down. Look at that. Decreased speed is just fantastic. He's going to counter. This is so great. Let's go and see how much he crits for, though. So he applied the provoke again, which is insane because he just has so much speed. So over 200 speed is like very good for any PvE situation. So look at that. So 12,000 crits just because he scales off HP and also have like 150% critical damage. I could have done less critical damage and more HP for him to be, um, with way more survivability. But as you can see, we didn't even get hit because of the stuns and the provokes that are controlling the enemy. So he barely got hit there. So he had a little bit of health missing. He regained it on wave 2. Terminator reduction there with his A1. We need a provoke. He does A1 again. He applied a stun. There's the provoke, and everybody will start attacking him, and he'll be just doing his thing. That A1 spam. That A3 also hits really hard, so let's look at that A3 in a bit when he gets it again. So that was an A1 plus War Master. That's about 10,000 damage there. He barely got hit. We've got Apothecary there in case he even thinks of going low in health. But the control is insane. It's stun set and provoke. Just doing A1 all the time. So his Terminator reduction, stun chance on all enemies, it's just fantastic. I think he's just an amazing Void champion. If you do happen to get him, you're in luck. It's gonna make your life so much easier. So this run should be over in a bit. I'm just using rare champions here. I didn't want to use all my legendaries. So let's look at Khoronar. He won't do all that much on the boss because the boss cannot be provoked, cannot be stunned. We can apply our decreased attack and decreased defense though. Which we haven't applied anything so far. Oh, there it is. The decreased attack is on. And that's great. There's his A2. We couldn't provoke, of course, because this is a boss. There's a Cold Heart with a bit of damage. Look at that A1. War Master proc there for 40k because of his counters. It's insane. He'll counter again. And the boss should be down in just a bit. I think Cold Heart should have her A3. There it is. We didn't go in with the Poisoner, so the damage is not that high. Poisoner would have made this run way, way faster. So an amazing champion in the dungeons, of course. You saw all that control we had on the waves once we reached the boss. Depending on which dungeon you're doing, you need to go in there with a specific strategy. So the dragon is just going in there with a Poisoner for early game to mid game players. So let's go over and see him in some PvP, guys. So that's where he's really important, in my opinion. Faction wars, of course, but this is locked. I do have, I think, no, I haven't made a Skinwalkers video just yet, but I will in the future. So for PvP, guys, this is the team I'll be using. I'll be using Arbiter, Lissandra. Fantastic champions to have, of course. These teams are not easy. Gold 4 has become way, way harder than before. Khoronar and my Madam series in there. This is going to be a fun team to watch, and we're going to see how everything goes in PvP. So we basically boost, then my Lissandra will boost, remove Terminator from enemy, Arbiter, and Lissandra. So here we're going to apply some defense down and attack down. We only applied it on 3 out of 4. And here we could either provoke or do our A3. Our A3 is the one that does some damage and also applies a decreased attack and a decreased defense. So let's see the damage we do on targets that already have the decreased defense. So let's see. Look at that. Everybody's at half health. And this champion is supposed to be a tanky champion. So imagine if you had way more critical damage on that. But of course, that's not where he's going to be strong enough. So Chanda did her attack, but because of the attack down, she couldn't take anybody out of our team. Let's remove some buffs here. We do have that block debuffs now. Look at that A1. Let's remove some Terminator. Boost our team. Just go and try and kill that Chanda. Nope. Best thing to do here is actually to provoke everybody. There we go. And then just wait for them to attack us, and you're gonna see them actually killing themselves through that counter from Khoronar. So look at that. Look at Khoronar now. There's one. It's gonna be the second one. Actually, why didn't we counter there? That was weird. I think Lysandra countered, so we couldn't counter back. Okay. And then let's boost our team. Let's just do an A1. Look at that, 5k. That's so good. We healed up from Arbiter. Let's apply defense down. And decrease attack. Remove that Terminator. And A1 again. And that's it, basically. We're going to just do our final hit now and finish off the last two. So, a real tanky champion, but also does some good amount of damage and takes out targets if the need is there. So look at that, 190,000 damage overall throughout the fight. He's not a nuker, but he does do his job. So because he is an A1 champion that does an AoE, I can actually use him in my blender team. So instead of using my normal blender team, I'm actually going to use, where is it? I'm going to use my my all ally attacker. I'm going to use my Skull Crown, who is the best one out of Skull Crown and Sinesha. And then we're going to showcase Khoronar's A1 and see if he can fit somewhere in there. I don't think he'll do that much damage because we already saw how much he does. He does about 10,000. So let's see. Look at that. He just removes some Terminator in the end with his A1, but nothing insane. So there it is. We got a True Fear on us. Oh, there it is. We lost our turn. That's fine. The enemies are just wrecking us. Can we get lucky here? There it is. We got lucky there with True Fear. We didn't get we didn't lose our turn. So he doesn't really work in a blender. He can't bring that extra damage to kill off the enemies. I mean, if I did use my normal blender team, it would have been a way easier fight for us. So let's just go in with our normal team. Next up, guys, we're going to be showcasing Minaya with Khoronar. It's the same team that beat us before in the blender team, but now we're actually going to be trying to win this instead of showcasing the blender team. Minaya actually brings some additional benefits to Khoronar. For example, he will always counter when he gets hit, and he will also apply a block debuff buff on himself if he applies his A2 and Vinayas on the same team. So let's go. There's the provoke. There's all the buffs that we need. The provoke is what we really needed against this team. So there's the A1. That's Zergala trying to beat us, but that always countered the double hit on his A1. The stun set also just makes it so good for us. There's one target down. We need to stun lock Arbiter because she will revive. There's the revive. There's his A1 again, double hit, the decrease in Terminator. Before his nerf, that was actually 20% decrease in Terminator, and it was insane when you had Minaya in that team. And you could go for a very tanky Khoronar instead and just depend on that Terminator manipulation that he would bring, and it would be just insane for PvP. So there it is, the double hit on his A1. It's just fantastic. And when you do have Minaya, I would suggest to go for a more tanky Khoronar instead of just going for critical rate and critical damage on his glove and amulet. So guys, this was Khoronar's showcase. I do hope that you max him out immediately when you get him and test out the waters and test out any kind of set on him. Will definitely work. I do have stun set on him, as I said before, because that Skinwalker's Faction Wars stage 21 was just insane, and Khoronar was the key to beating it, at least for the champions that I do have in my vault for Skinwalkers. So guys, thanks a lot for watching this video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and of course I'll see you in the next one. See you guys.